I've spoken in other videos on my channel about what it's like to rent a property in South Italy, but in today's video, I'm sharing with you what no one will tell you about finding a home in South Italy, because as I prepare to search for a new home myself, I'm starting to discover that things have gotten a lot more difficult in recent years, and there are a few things that you need to be aware of. So let's talk about what no one tells you about finding a home in South Italy in 2025. Now we're focusing on rentals because this is what I have personal experience of, and it is what I am currently looking for as well. Now, when it comes to the first thing that I have noticed, it is that location really does impact availability. Now, if you plan to move to a place in South Italy that is popular with tourists, you have to get ready to expect that that is going to impact quite a few things, including just how many properties you are going to find available on a long-term basis. Let me show you an example. So if we look for the province of Salerno, because the province covers quite a large area, we can see that there are 435 available properties to rent. However, if we filter that search down to long-term residential properties, we can see it actually leaves us with 337 homes to rent. So that's like, nearly a 100 home difference in terms of availability. So you can see a lot of homes in South Italy are let out now on transitory leases, which are usually up to a period of 18 months. Now, you have to be careful because sometimes you will find a website that doesn't actually specify that the home is for a transitory lease until you read right down at the bottom in the small print. For example, Immobiliare doesn't actually have a search filter like Idealista does to identify the type of contract that you want for your property. So a little clue for you to help you identify the properties that are more than likely going to be transitory leases. Well, there are two clues actually. The first is the size of the property in proportion to the amount of money they want per month. There are some shocking examples that you can see here of the amount of money that people are asking for in terms of the size of the property you're going to get. This is a red flag and a clear indicator that this is a transitory property, because as much as property prices have increased, which we'll talk about next, it's not to this kind of extreme here in South Italy. Another kind of thing to be aware of relates to the photographs themselves. If you see photographs of the beds with towels that are positioned really neatly at the bottom of the bed, let me tell you, that is a transitory lease. I don't know about you, but I don't roll up my towels on the bottom of my bed at home. So if you see that, you understand that that property is not going to be let on a long-term basis. So they are two clues that you can kind of bear in mind when you're searching through properties if it isn't immediately obvious that a property is transitory or long-term. Now, when it comes to cost, this is something I'm definitely noticing has jumped and tripled and quadrupled in recent years. Now, I left Salerno 2 years ago, and in those 2 years, boy, oh boy, have the prices gotten a little bit crazy. So Salerno was always considered to be a more pricey part of South Italy to live in. Let's be honest, it's just a stone's throw from the Amalfi Coast. It's in a really great part of the world. However, now the prices are literally ridiculous. I'm seeing some really shocking prices for homes that, even though they might be in prime locations and in new build complexes, that kind of money in this part of the world for an ordinary person is pretty much unheard of. And so I'm starting to see now that the centre of Salerno is not the place to move to because it is just too damn expensive. So you've really got to consider this, because you might be better off staying outside of the main city in a suburb location, or even in a different village but with easy access to your main kind of shopping needs and services in this way, but not staying in the city itself, depending on where in South Italy you're interested in, because really there is a huge price difference. I have seen properties in neighbouring towns that are like 600 euros a month, which is correct for the size of the property that you're looking for. And then you have the crazy prices in the centre of Salerno itself. So you can see you've got to kind of do your homework a little bit. It doesn't always pay to rent a home directly in the centre, despite how convenient you think it might be. There are other places that are not a million miles away, but can still offer you the same kinds of things you're looking for or easy access to the bigger cities. So really, really do consider this. Now, another thing you've got to think about, which I'm really starting to notice, is that landlords are ever demanding and kind of cautious about the tenants that they accept into their properties. Now, this has been a long running thing. I mean, I have been very lucky up to now because with every home that I've moved into, I've always known somebody. There's always been some kind of a connection that has led me to that home, which means that I haven't really encountered many problems, or any problems actually, in finding accommodation. Now, though, I'm trying to find a home with cold connections. So I don't have any kind of connections that can lead me to properties necessarily. So I'm starting to see just how difficult it might be for you as well. Now, some things that I'm starting to notice are landlords demanding indeterminato work contracts. Now, an indeterminato work contract, if you don't know what it is a work contract here in Italy without an expiry date. And they are considered to be the gold dust of work contracts here in Italy. And if you have one, it's considered that you are going to be a safer bet for renting a home or buying a home in the future. Now, there are some landlords that specifically want indeterminato contracts from the state. So, for example, people who are employed by the police or by the fire service or in a government office. They are considered to be the creme de la creme of contracts because literally the money is almost guaranteed every month on the same date. And, you know, it's thought of that there's not going to be any problems with job security. Although I'm a bit skeptical because I think it doesn't matter if you work for the police or for a government office. If you do something wrong, you could lose your job. Nothing is ever that secure. But there we go. This is the mindset of some landlords here. I'm also starting to notice that if you are self-employed, you're going to have to be prepared to dig deep with your tax returns. I saw a listing the other day that required 5 years of tax returns. So you really and truly do need to be able to demonstrate certified income here when you are renting a home, as you should do, because of course it's a risk when you let a property out to a tenant. You need to make sure they can afford to pay for it. But this is going to be a big thing. Now, you will notice in a lot of listings, it says only referenced tenants. Now, if you're not sure what that means, that doesn't mean that you have to provide a reference from your employer or from previous landlords. It simply means that you have to demonstrate a certified income stream, whether that is through self-employment or through a busta paga, which is a payslip and a contract here in Italy. So yeah, I got confused with that when I first saw it, but I have since learned that that relates purely to your income and not to you as a person. Although some places may also require some kind of reference from you, particularly if they don't know you and you don't have any kind of connections here and you're fresh and you're brand new to Italy. Maybe they might want a character reference, but when you see this on a listing, it is not what that means. It is purely to do with your finances. Another thing that I'm starting to see is that you need to start your search for a property as soon as you know that you want to move to Italy, because a lot of landlords will start advertising properties at least 2 months in advance of them becoming available. So if they have existing tenants who have already given notice, pretty much as soon as that notice has been received, they will start advertising the property to rent. So it means that if, for example, you have a goal to move in, I don't know, June in the summer, then you really want to start looking in the spring of that year, because it's going to give you the best opportunity to find places, because they are usually advertised that far in advance. So you do really need to bear that in mind as well. Now, a couple of other things that I will mention that I'm starting to notice. Be careful about condominium costs. If you're looking for an apartment in a building, there will usually be a condominium fee that you will need to pay in addition to the monthly rent. Now, this isn't included in the price that the property is advertised at. It's usually mentioned a bit further down in the notes. And if it isn't, then you need to make sure that you ask the person what the condominium costs are. These can vary depending on the type of building. They can be as little as 20 euros extra a month up to 100 euros plus a month. It really depends if your building has a caretaker or if it is just the fact that you're contributing towards the cleaning and maintenance. So you are going to need to do your research and make sure that you ask that question, because of course that is going to impact on your budget and your kind of ability to rent that home. Some other things you need to make sure you ask are whether or not they accept pets. This is something that I'm having to consider now because of course we have Tina. So make sure you ask that question. Some listings will specify that pets are allowed, others won't. So you do need to ask the question just to be 100% sure. And I think overall, when it comes to searching for a home, sign up for the alerts for new homes when they're available. Consider also registering your details with local estate agencies. Now, bear in mind, there is like a finder's fee that you will have to pay towards the estate agents if they find you a property. This is usually the equivalent of a month's rent. So sometimes it is better if you can find a private landlord, just because you won't have to pay that. But if you're looking for a home remotely, sometimes you need somebody there searching for you and kind of finding an appropriate place. So it can be something that you can kind of fall back on if necessary with registering your details. But a lot of estate agencies will also register properties on the big search engines, Immobiliare and Idealista as well. And you will notice that because you will see their logo next to the listing. So you will know that it's not a private landlord. But it's really important for you to consider these aspects. I have recorded other videos about renting in Italy. In fact, this is the one that I recommend you should watch next, just to give you a real kind of grounding as to what you can expect. But these are some updated things that I have really noticed through my own search in this period that I think can really help you. You've got to be prepared for a lot of telephone calls, a lot of checking on the internet every single day, a lot of waiting around to hear about availability for viewings. Yeah, it's pretty stressful. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you this, but start your search early, okay? This is the biggest piece of advice I can give you, because as you can see in some areas, the availability of long-term rentals isn't as much as short-term rentals. And so you really do need to kind of get in there quick so that you can find the place that's best for you. I'll see you in the next video.